Well, look what my clownfish found. Introducing a Sebae Anemone in this Fincast.
Oh, we use the extreme fish food quite a bit in our shop. We like it very much. It's very palatable for the fish. A lot of times fish that don't eat other things will eat the pellets, which is a great thing.
Hi, everybody. John here with another Fincast. This is my foster puppy for the next week or so. This is Shadow. Shadow likes chewing on my finger today. Shadow, say hi to all the people. That's a good boy. All right, I want to talk about Sebae anemones in this Fincast. In my previous Fincast, I had an interview with Mark Levinson, is known as Milev online, Milev's Reef. If you remember, Milev was talking about the harem of pink skunk clowns that he had in a Sebae anemone in his 400-gallon aquarium, and he used a tube to put them in there, and we talked about how he accomplished that, and we showed some clips from his very popular YouTube video during my previous video. Well, that got me thinking about Sebaes, and I thought, all right, I've got to have one. So I ordered one from my wholesaler this week, and I put it in the aquarium. Now, let me talk a little bit about, before I show you that, let me talk a little bit about anemones in aquariums. First of all, when you read around on a lot of the forums, people with nice corals and so forth in their reef tanks will say, well, I don't like anemones because they can cause all kinds of havoc in my reef tank. Other people think that it's sort of a low-class version of something that you could put in a reef aquarium. When you talk about anemones, it's kind of like talking about religion or politics at the Thanksgiving dinner table. It's probably something you shouldn't do. There are very strong opinions about anemones when you start talking to people who have reef aquariums. I kind of fall in line with the group of people who says, I like anemones as much as I like corals. I just think they're interesting, and I like them in my reef tank. I understand that there are some hazards with them, and we'll talk more about that at another time. But as far as I'm concerned, an anemone is just as interesting as any piece of coral you can put in the aquarium. And then when you have the opportunity to have clownfish hosting in them, that makes them even more interesting. And when I was in the retail business, that was one of the things everybody wanted. They wanted a Nemo, and they wanted a Nemo with an anemone. And so that was kind of what a lot of people were seeking. So maybe because beginners think that's so cool, advanced reefers think, maybe I'm, above that or whatever. I'm just going to say that I like them, and so I decided I'd go ahead and try and get this done. And for the record, if you look at my aquarium, you're also going to see some fish swimming around that are a little bit beyond even questionable in terms of whether or not they are reef safe. But they haven't bothered any of my corals. Not having much luck keeping shrimp because of my hogfish, because every time they shed their shells, he goes in and eats them. So no shrimp, but I still like my hogfish, my Spanish hogfish. So be that as it may, I do break some of the rules, but I'm having a good time with it. Okay, so let's take a look now at the introduction of this Sebae anemone into my aquarium. There in the bag we have a brand new Sebae anemone. Okay, so the plan when I aquascaped the aquarium was to leave a canyon right there. This is the big rock. There's the canyon. This is the smaller rock, outcropping, if you will. And my hope was that the anemone would move right in back there behind the favia. So I'll pull the favia forward, and I'm going to hope that the anemone will kind of take up residence right back there. We'll see. The anemone came from the wholesaler, and I picked it up immediately and brought it to my aquarium, where I put it in the water so it could acclimate for about 30 minutes simply for temperature. It still has all the water that came from the wholesaler with it, none of my tank water yet. Then I took out about 2/3 of the water that came from the wholesaler and replaced that with aquarium water. And once again, I decided I would let the anemone sit in the tank. Now we're basically managing to try and get the water parameters in the bag the same as the water parameters in the tank. If you read around online, you talk to people, what you're really trying to do here is equalize the pH. Many people at this point would choose to do what's called drip acclimation, where they literally drip water from the aquarium into a bucket with the anemone, and gradually over time, at about 1 drip per second, get the anemone used to the aquarium water. I opted to do the bag system. I've done it many times. It's always worked for me, but when you read around online, people will say that that is not quite as good. And honestly, I've got to believe the drip acclimation is better. I didn't have time to mess with that as I was home on my dinner break from work. So, but I did leave the anemone in the bag for 2.5 hours to acclimate that way, and I'm quite certain that that will work. So when I got home from work, and for me that's around midnight Eastern time, I decided I would clear a space where I wanted the anemone to go. I just showed you the little cove. I actually used a fish net to rub the gravel away, and I use a very shallow gravel base in my aquarium, substrate base, and made a spot on the glass with the hope that the anemone would grab hold of the glass and that it would decide to live in that spot in the aquarium. Then I very gently and easily used the bag. You can handle these anemones, they don't sting that badly, but I decided to go ahead and use the bag and tried to deposit the Sebae where I wanted it to live in the aquarium. Now this is a very tricky thing in terms of, because that's where you want it doesn't mean that's where it wants to be, and as many times as not, you'll put the anemone in the aquarium where you want it, and the next day it'll be completely someplace else. They can move with that foot, they can release and float in the current, and you never know where they're going to show up. But I kind of had a plan in place, so I thought I might as well try it. So I did, and at least at the moment that I released it, it went right where I wanted it to. So now it's the next morning, and I got out of bed and I went downstairs having no idea what I would see in the aquarium. And this is what I found. I couldn't believe my eyes. Not only was the anemone right where I had put it last night, right where I want it, but my clownfish overnight had stopped hosting in my frog spawn, and they had started hosting in the Sebae anemone. And they were not only hosting in it, but if you look, they were defending it, which means they think this is their permanent home. That big hogfish came by, the clownfish were not having it. He chased him away, and all the other fish are now getting the message from my 2 frostbite clowns that they're going to have to steer clear of that area, that they have taken that over with the anemone. So I spent a good part of the morning taking video of the clownfish in their new home, and really enjoying the fact that the anemone is still where I put it. Now, by tomorrow, that might not be the case. I'll do follow-up videos and let you know, or I'll write about it in the blog at Fincasters.com. And it's very unlikely that that anemone will stay there. But for now, it's working out great, and I couldn't be happier. One thing I'm a little bit disappointed about is the fact that I had hoped to reproduce the Milev harem with that Sebae, and now that the frostbite clowns have moved in there and started defending it, I'm thinking, well, that's not the worst thing in the world, but I probably, unless I add another anemone to the tank, I'm probably not going to be able to also do the harem. So I am a little bit disappointed I won't be able to practice with that project, but we'll see what happens. Of course, you will notice, now this is a Bali Sebae anemone, and if I can find some additional information, I'll also put that in the description. It was supposed to come in white. Typically, you don't want to buy one that's white, because that means that it's basically ejected all of the beneficial zooxanthellae that live in it, and that means it's closer to dying. But this is one that is supposed to be whiter than most, but typically you would want more of a flesh-colored anemone in your aquarium. So I'm hopeful that with the high-powered lighting that I have over my tank, and I have the Hydra lighting system, that'll be enough. And I'm also hopeful that the clownfish will start taking care of it, and that I can also feed it bits of fish, meat, shellfish, and so forth, and really make it very happy, and make it very happy where it is in the aquarium. I'll leave you with just a couple of other notes on Sebae anemones. I would say that it is considered the second easiest to keep, a bubble tip or a rose bubble tip. Anemone would probably be the easiest one to keep in your reef aquarium. The Sebae is not for beginners. It's not for new aquariums. You want to have a very well established tank, at least a year old. Mine is several years old. Something that you cannot really cut corners with. You need a full-on reef lighting system. Again, I have the AI hydras in my tank, and that should be ample for the anemone. And I just want to let you know that I will be doing some follow-ups. I'm hoping to do a video just with fast facts on anemones. If not, I will definitely blog about that and put it at fincasters.com. It probably won't be there at the moment that this video is published, but hopefully shortly after that. It is the holiday season as I'm producing this, and the time constraints are what they are. But having said that, thank you for watching. Appreciate you stopping by Fincasters. Check out some of the other videos that we have on the channel. Lots of videos for marine aquarists, for planted tank aficionados, and for people just looking for general information about aquariums. Appreciate you stopping by. My name is John Carlin, and I'll see you in the next Fincast.